Yeah, look, I think from a shop level and I mean businesses that I've been involved with in partnerships with, MSOs, collision shop, insurers, government, there's always been a focus on plastic, be it repairing, waste, whatever it may be. I mean, think about it between bumper covers, which is, your number one component on the car that
Yeah.
gets impacted, and headlights, the number two component. I mean, they're both formed from plastic, so
Yeah.
it is under the plastic repair banner. And then if you talk about all the new trims that are coming out, spoilers and texture,
Hmm.
it's a massive component of, the collision repair process. I think you're looking at some data, 50, 60% of the average claim of part replacement are plastic parts.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to today's episode of the Body Bangin podcast. And you guys are going to be very interested, as I am, to talk today because when I was first broached about this topic, I didn't really think that it would merit a podcast interview. I'll be honest. I mean, really. But the more I looked into this, I thought, this is actually really interesting. And why aren't we talking about it more? So, with all that to say, I want to welcome my guest, Mario Dimovski. Hi, Mario.
hey, Mickey.
So happy to have you. I know it's been a while trying to organize the calendars, but here we are.
Yes, it's busy period and coming towards the end of the year, but yeah, thanks for
Yes.
having me on.
Absolutely. So, a lot of you guys may know Mario. If you don't, he's been in the industry for 35 years, specifically in plastics, his entire career, in and out of different companies and organizations, but specifically on plastics. And we're going to get into why that needs to be talked about and why we need to be paying more attention to that. So Mario is now the head of the Plastic Repair Alliance Council with Plasnomic. He also works with the Boyd Group. And I mean, if you could check out his LinkedIn. I mean, he's done a bazillion things, but really, you have a great, solid background. It's not like you just kind of came into this role and you're just learning about it. This is something that you have had intimate experience with for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, plastic repairs has been my foundation. Started as a 16-year-old and, 35, 6 years later, still working hard at it. I think the only difference is actually when I started into plastic repairs, I was actually when metal was phasing out and
Mm,
plastic parts were phasing in.
yes.
It's sort of weird that I was part of that sort of infancy when plastic was coming into vehicles. So even really, trying to figure out how to repair plastic and how to deal with it. And,
Right.
35 years later, I mean, plastic is one of the most common materials on cars, the number one material repaired on vehicles today. So, yeah, it's a great journey.
Yeah, so let's kind of get right into it. And there's so many different things we can talk about, but why? I know that we've got so many plastics now. We kind of take it for granted. And at first I was like, plastics? Like I said, plastics. I don't know. What does that mean? So let's hear from your side. Why should we be paying attention to? And I know there's a lot of going to be this, and I feel like I'm asking a question that has a million answers, but why now? Why should we be really looking at this plastic piece of it now when we've really, I feel like, not done so in the past?
Yeah, look, I think from a shop level and I mean businesses that I've been involved with in partnerships with, MSOs, collision shop, insurers, government, there's always been a focus on plastic, be it repairing, waste, whatever it may be. I mean, think about it between bumper covers, which is, your number one component on the car that
Yeah.
gets impacted, and headlights, the number two component. I mean, they're both formed from plastic, so
Yeah.
it is under the plastic repair banner. And then if you talk about all the new trims that are coming out, spoilers and texture,
Hmm.
it's a massive component of, the collision repair process. I think you're looking at some data, 50, 60% of the average claim of part replacement are plastic parts.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
yeah, so the whole objective and the push now to think about, well, hey, how do we repair plastic properly? Why we need to repair plastic? It's all sort of coming into this whole, funnel, talking about sustainability, talking about repair costs, talking about
Mhm.
everything is all coming together. And I guess plastic has become a hot topic at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there are all of these standards for repair. We've got the manufacturers coming out with their SOPs, and it seems like we're attempting to, anyway, create a set of standards for a proper repair. And it seems like that's the direction we're headed. More and more people are embracing it and understanding the importance of it. But in some of the information you had sent me before, there's millions of repairs being done every year in regards to
Yeah.
plastics, yet nothing to say, no standards to say how
No.
it should be done, how it shouldn't be done, how should you dispose of it. I mean, like nothing.
No, I always joke. Chicken wire and hot glue, and it's called a plastic repair. I mean, on bumpers. I kid you not. I mean, some of the stuff that's out there, and you can Google some of the stuff, be it on YouTube or wherever. I mean, there's just the weird and wonderful. And I guess hence why there's this need to have some sort of uniform standard or best practice to repairs in industry, and hence why the interest behind Plasnomic, and I guess all the people jumping on and being part of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it from a perspective of, I guess, a knowledge gap or, trying to
Mhm.
repair to some sort of standard to be able to repair plastic, it's critical because, I mean, those components now that are connected to safety systems, that are connected to, radars, but also from a cost perspective, you can't be just using all these materials and products that literally are band-aid solutions.
Right.
And eventually it don't work because you can't put all these foreign substances into, for example, polypropylene, which is the number one material of, say, plastic bumper covers at the moment. Foreign materials don't stick well to that. No matter what you call them, eventually there'll be pressure on the part, they'll dry up, fillers, bonds, they'll crack and fail. So knowing how to repair properly is vital. I think what we are missing is the knowledge. Everyone's trying to do their best. It's not like anyone's doing something intentionally wrong. They're
Right.
just doing what they think is right. And, I've
Mhm.
spent a lot of time traveling the world, specifically, going to conferences and expos and, events and speaking and having meetings. And you find that there's so many different pockets of our industry in different parts of the world that repairs plastic differently. And it's probably just based
Interesting.
on, yeah, whoever was in that region at that time has come up with some
Mm.
sort of theory and ran with it. And, and they vary from one region to another. So the whole objective is, well, then how do we unite that? How do we create one knowledge base, one set of standards and a best practice to be able to repair properly that benefits really everyone? I mean, it benefits the shop. They can repair to some sort of standards. It benefits, of course, the OEM because their parts are being repaired
Right.
properly.
Right.
Because hey, I mean, OEMs are coming out and saying you can't repair this and you can't repair that, and that's what we follow today as a business and as an industry. But if you're an OEM and you're seeing all these weird and wonderful ways we're repairing your parts, would you be saying, well, hey, no, 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 you can't repair these
Mm.
parts? So I
Mm.
think as an industry, we owe it to ourselves, but also to to our clients, to OEMs, to say, hey, we need to start repairing to at least some sort of best practice and standard.
So let's back up a little bit. So Plasnomic, did you found it or are you just
Yeah,
part? Okay, so
yeah.
so tell
So
me a little bit about that piece of it.
well, look, there's always something that we've spoken about, in our inner circle of plastic repair people and, industry people. And there's always this sort of question of, there's no knowledge, there's no way you can go and find things out, hey, and, I remember it wasn't that I just found it, but I was actually, working with a number of colleagues globally that I was, most of them are part of this council. And
Mhm.
probably the icing on the cake was meeting with Kirk Lammon, in Germany from Polyvance, having some dinner with him and his wife. And I said, look, we've spoken about this so many times. It's just about time. Let's do it. And we
Yeah.
both spoke about, hey, it's going to be a big challenge and it's a huge fight to fight. And look, I mean, 6 months later, what we've achieved has just been astronomical. We've got literally the whole world behind it. We've probably assembled one of the most dynamic groups of councils that there is in our industry. The
Wow.
who's part of this and still growing, and we still have the amount of people that we've said no to, not purely because they're not worth being part of it, because it's just an overkill. You can't have 40 people on your council. You know what I
Right.
mean? It just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. So yeah, so from look, the foundation, even though with Plasnomic has been recent, I mean, it's probably 30 years in its making. Thinking about there's a gap here, there's a knowledge gap, there's
Yeah.
no real understanding, there's no authority, there's no body. And look, we have so many great industry training bodies out there that do an amazing job, but the
Mm.
car's getting so complex. complex. Repairs
Yes.
are getting complex. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you focus on first? Do you focus on ADAS? Do you focus on, technology? So being a specialist in this space really allows us to shine. And then being that authority then allows us to be able to create, and do research and testing on these best practices and then let the training bodies deliver the
Mm.
curriculum or whatever we develop. So I guess that's a
Yeah.
bit of a high level view of how Plasnomic came about.
So are you thinking then with plasnomic and what's really cool about this that I like also is it's global. We're doing so many things in the United States that benefit, this is our state association and these are our, this here's SEMA. So everybody from the US comes to SEMA, but this is an issue. I mean, cars are cars no matter where they're located on the planet, right? And that's typically the same material. So what's really interesting, like you said, how they may be fixing plastics in one a country versus another country, or even probably regions within the country. It's all over the place. So it sounds like, if I'm understanding correctly, you created Plasnomic to work with plastic makers and repairers to start creating some type of uniformity so you can do the testing, you can create standards because there are none. And I would imagine just like everything else, because there are no standards, who really gets the short end of the stick is the person that owns the car that gets into it, and the vehicle doesn't
Yeah.
stand up the way that it should when it gets into another accident after you've repaired it.
But even before it gets to an accident, repairs failing. There was a study I think a couple of years ago done, and the number one reason for warranty returns is actually feel like cracking on plastic
Mm,
parts.
mm,
So even
wow.
before another accident happens, could you
True.
imagine that consumers coming back, they're upset. Their car's got to come back. They've got to refix the component. They're upset with the shop. They're probably upset with insurance because they sent them to that shop. You
Okay.
know, they're upset with the car and the OEM because for whatever reason. So it really creates a negative perspective from the consumer. But then the shop is double paying. They've got to repair or buy a new part now. There's so many levels that actually impacts us not repairing properly. And you are right. This is a global mission and it's an initiative because purely on that level because we're doing great work in silos. And one thing I've learned,
Mm,
being I guess having the luxury of being also part of IBIS as a global ambassador, traveling the world and taking it on myself to be able to speak or take part in different events in different regions. You see that everyone's trying, everyone's doing great work, everyone's innovating, everyone's doing R&D. But then you think, well, there's so much of this work being done in silos. Why? Could you
right.
imagine if we all put our efforts into one funnel?
Right.
Imagine how much easier it would be. And I guess the benefit out of being in this industry for 35 years, people that I started with that were at that stage, youngsters coming in and grew in the industry. So much of my associates and that are now high executives around the world and part of this council started the same way. So you build that relationship, you have those people, and contacts are so important in this industry today.
Yeah.
So to have that leverage and to have the right people in the right place and to be able to execute this framework of creating global standards is very important. So it's not
Yeah.
like, look, there's a lot of work that's actually been done over the years and decades,
Yeah.
not specifically towards Plasnomic, but really towards building the network, building the trust, building the relationships, building this vision and mission about, hey, why are we constantly doing work in silos? It doesn't matter if it's plastic repair or any other technology. As an industry, would be wasting so much money and time and effort really just because we just fight our own battles in these little pockets and down the road there's someone fighting the same battle and spending the same resources the same money. So this whole objective is, hey, it's all about unity. It's all about let's do this together. It's easier. You were tapping into experts, be it you know executives to technicians on the ground to
Hmm.
plastic repair providers to material manufacturers, and really getting everyone to feed that knowledge into this hub and then extract what's the best out of it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think I have a few questions coming from, because a lot of shops listening are shop owners, managers, and we have people all over the board. So for the actual independent shop or any auto body shop, collision repair center, at this point, when a repair is done on the plastics, whatever that may be, How do they know it's being done properly? What do you feel like right now is kind of the litmus of this is a good repair and proper repair? What are they looking at?
Well, I mean, today, what a good repair is if it looks cosmetically fine. I mean, the
Right.
damage behind that component. Look, as an industry, we're repairing currently about 25% of bumpers. Let's just say as an average. So bumper covers, 25% we repair, 75% we replace. Now, I mean, what is a good repair? I mean, everybody thinks it's a good repair. They're doing their
True.
best to pair it
True.
right. So I think what we're trying
Good
to
point.
achieve here, yeah, we're not saying that, hey, they're doing it wrong. We're just saying that we're going to come up with a way together to do it better. That's more compliant to an OEM process, that's more allows the plastic to behave as is intended. But today, the way I guess we measure what's a good repair is what the end product looks like. And if it's cosmetically
Mm.
nice and the part looks shiny and the car goes out and the customer's happy, well, that's great.
Right.
It's unfortunate that we have that these components do fail. And again, everyone from a shop perspective is doing what they think is the best, and they are. It really comes down to having this additional knowledge to say, well, hey, we found this technology in South Africa, or we've seen this in
Mm.
UK, and they're doing it this way, and they're having much
Right.
better success. Because you got to understand, one of the two of the major components in plastic repairs today is two-part epoxy and filler.
Hmm.
Now, if you look at an average so-called premium filler that they use for plastic repairs, a little tub costs like $100. Two-part epoxy on average costs what, like $30. So if you look at that average repair price of material on a component, I mean, it's growing higher and higher. So as we come from an industry now, with repair costs going through the roof due to ADAS and talent and skills and technology and the rest of that. I mean, what I think written off vehicles are record highs, which is no good for any of us.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to be thinking about how do we reduce the repair costs, and having the right materials or having the right process to be able to repair to a more cost effective way and a better way is very, very important.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said earlier, there's a knowledge gap, and
Yeah,
we don't know what we don't know. And I think that's the biggest issue right now is like you said, well, they think it's good because who's to say what is good or not good? What's to say what is incorrect or correct if there's no baseline for anybody to go off of? So it's weird to think that that has just never existed. um,
it's
right? Like,
crazy. I mean, 2025, the most repaired component on the vehicle, and there's zero standards or best practices. It's literally driven regionally, driven by business.
so we know that you guys are working on it's only been 6 months. So we know that things are in process. So again, for the people who are boots on the ground in the shops, how can they expect or when can they expect to start getting access to some of this? How would they go about that? What does that
Yeah,
look like?
look, I mean, we're very, early stages. So our first, protocol was to create, a council. So we've got about 15 councillors from all around the world, from India, South Africa, Dubai, a number from the US, of course, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. So I mean, we've covered literally the entire world, and and all these representatives are really high-end executives that are in the industry on some level. Once a council was created, then we had a call to action. The call to action was all about, hey, if you are, or if you know of a plastic repair provider anywhere in the world, please submit. And we've had literally every single supplier of anything to do with plastic submit. We've even had people like from Uganda.
Wow.
We've had like it's been really, I guess, interesting, but also rewarding, and to think, wow, I mean, this is working.
Yeah,
You know, we've had
right.
we had some guy that's got two staff and repairs, three, four bumpers a week in Uganda, saying, "Hey, I'm a plastic repair expert, and this is how I do it."
Mm,
And it's what it's all about. So we're now evaluating all that and taking steps to, evaluate what all the processes are. We're also looking at nominating some, I guess, technical ambassadors. We're going to be calling these people who are like plastic repair experts who've had more, time with plastic repair, and start to formalize at least one type of repair. I mean, there's so many types of plastic repairs per
yeah.
se on components. So we've identified a polypropylene, which is probably about 99% of current bumper covers on the car. And then we've identified three types of common repairs, which is a basic impact, a split, and a tab that breaks on the side. So they're probably out of the 90% of components that are out there, they're probably the majority of repairs that are on today's cars. And we're going to start then evaluating what is the best process to repair those. So probably I would say mid-January, we'll be ready to start, I guess, providing content and then working with local training bodies like your iCars, your Big
Right.
Tags, your
Right.
Thatchams, everyone around the world to go and be able to deliver this training to their network.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I think the great takeaway today for shops and vendors out there is keep your eyes peeled, know that this is going
Yeah.
on, and an awareness not as a former shop owner, if I were putting myself in those shoes and listening to this, I'd be like, "Oh good, something else to keep me up at night."
Uh,
Something I'm not doing right that I should have been doing differently. Lovely. Um, but here's the benefit of it. Yes. And there's movement happening. And when the proper ways and helpful procedures are ready to come out, I know to keep my eyes open for that so I can
yeah.
tap in to get that information.
I think you know that it's probably what you're doing today as shop owners. Everybody's doing their best. Keep doing what you're doing. We're just saying, hey, at the right moment, there's going to be a better way. For some that might be already doing that better way. And then realistically to go out and to be able to, I guess, use a process, but not just a process. I mean, one of the things as well that we're really moving into is identifying the right tools and materials, because that is
Right.
actually that is the biggest unknown.
Yes.
People see something on TikTok or LinkedIn or YouTube, and they go, "Oh, this looks amazing!" And by the time you know it, if you're an MSO, 15 shops are using some sort of process that has really, not really a solid foundation for plastic repairs. It might work high level, but what it does deep down is more of a band-aid solution. So having knowledge also on what the right products, materials, equipment is very important, because that also moves towards then the process of the way it's implied. So there's multiple layers that we
Yeah.
are working towards, not just the standards themselves, but also, hey, what are the right tools? What are the right materials that really will give you that best result for the plastic repair? And
Yep.
eventually also trying to manage that part that gets replaced. I mean, as an industry, we are the second biggest polluter in the world of polyprop plastic. So trying to make sure that we manage that end use part as well is one thing that's very strong on our agenda, and
Right.
putting a lot of effort to make some of that right as well.
Yeah, you just actually answered the questions as you were
Ah,
talking. I was writing things down, and that's it. I was thinking, well, again, being a shop owner and all the stress and anxiety that goes with it, to think the benefit of finding a way to do it that's more efficient, where I'm not out just trying to test all the different things to figure out what's best. Because
yeah,
like you said, in a silo, you've got, why am I reinventing the wheel? If you're going to go do the work, you're going to do the homework, you're going to do the testing, please just let me know so I don't have to go through and buy
yeah.
15 products and 10 different tools, none of which are really working all that great. So I think that that's perfect. What you were talking about, the products and the tooling and all of that is a huge piece of it from the shop side. And then the secondary, or maybe we're down to like the fifth part of it, but the aftermath. Well, I guess my question would be, because we're talking about plastics and the chemical components of it, and wanting to make sure that we are, earth friendly and all of the things, how are we disposing of those things properly? And then also, well, we're repairing. I mean, we're using things with a lot of fumes, potentially if there's any grinding or anything like that that may put particulates in the air. How are we making sure that we're monitoring that with our staff and our team so that they can be safe? So I feel like there's that piece of it too, is the safety piece for our people, humans working on these plastics with all, like you were talking about, the epoxy and everything else. And then making sure that we're disposing them in the safest way. So I feel like there's that chemical component to plastics as well.
You're right. I mean, that's one thing that we in the beginning we never even thought about, and it took an audit that we had in a shop that I was sort of affiliated with, and they came in and said, "Well, you're going to be sanding plastics down. You've got to wear a certain mask."
Right.
And hey, again, growing up, repairing plastic, I mean, you just think, well, hey, there's nothing really wrong, and I'm not going to wear a mask. And I can assure you, most techs that repair plastic don't wear a mask. But
Mm,
I guess this sort of now, education and knowledge, and having companies around that make sure that we comply and are safe. So that part of it has become also a big part of it. I mean, we had a display sort of suite down at SEMA this year, and had a number of products on display, and we actually had a mannequin head on
mm,
display with the right mask and the
mm.
glasses, and so it's exactly what you're talking about, because that is also very important. We want to make sure that our staff and technicians are looked after and safe. But
Right,
I guess taking the next step and thinking about the waste aspect of where the plastic parts go. I mean, look, as an industry today, we again, we're doing our best. It's not easy, and there's not many solutions out there.
right.
But we generally throw most plastic parts into just general waste, and they go into landfill. I mean, we
Yep.
throw millions of parts each day right into the ground. So, there is programs that are starting to, I guess, pop up, and looking at ways to pick up this plastic, and try to go develop or convert it into a byproduct by shredding it. And government's involved. So Plasnomics actually been very lucky there. We've just been actually invited to a government and OEM group
Mm,
based on the work that we've been doing and the noise that we've been making. So we've sort of been invited as the experts to work with government, industry, and also OEMs to start thinking about, well, how do we capture this end of life plastic? How do we divert it into a funnel where it's being shredded and turned into a byproduct? Because the actual plastic itself, you can actually use it. You can actually, shred it down and turn it into, be a farm post or pots
right,
or whatever. So there's actually some
right.
value in it.
Hmm.
It just really comes down to the logistics of how we actually manage and all that. So a lot of work being done on that. And I think as industry and the world becomes more green, and, this new generation is much more eco-conscious, and,
Hmm.
we're trying to find the right thing. I think, I think the next probably 12 months is going to be some programs that come about, especially in the US. There's some exciting stuff happening in the UK already. And, I think in Australia and New Zealand, but I think in the US, there's a lot of movement now going on. And we're also part of that hopefully we'll be able to find a suited home for plastic where it's actually turned into a byproduct instead of being buried into the ground.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I love the fact that you've been invited to these into these meetings because it's hard. And I feel like as an industry, we feel like we're forgotten about a lot. And it's like, hello,
Yeah,
we are important. The things that we're working on are important. So I
and
love
yeah,
the fact that they're paying attention and we have a voice, at least here in this piece.
well done. You're exactly right. That was their exact thing. They just said until now they knew the problem was there, but they just never knew who do they talk, who do they reach out to?
Hmm.
There was just no one there as that representative to say, okay, so as soon as we started making some noise and they found probably that we're legit and we're doing the right thing. I mean, hey, we got invited, and Brian and myself, Drew Horst, we went out, and yeah, we had a number of conferences, and we're still talking towards with OEMs, recyclers, and government on how we can really add some value out of this plastic and really create a byproduct so it's value for everyone. And potentially the end goal is actually to turn it into other automotive parts, which will be great.
Yes, totally. That would be awesome.
Yes.
That's exciting. I feel like what you guys are doing is exciting. I feel like you should be so proud of yourself. This is really cool.
It's a team. Look, it's a team effort. Honestly, I
Yes.
mean, yeah, look, having an idea is one thing, but having, I guess, that network of people that think the same and put in the same method. I mean, we've got council people. I'm heading to Dubai. Next week I'm speaking at Auto Mechanica there, and the traction that's happening over there is purely because of our council member Graham over there, who's been doing amazing work. So, and look, and then different areas, same thing in different countries. We've got different programs that we're launching, and including the US. So it's a team effort. I
Yeah,
mean, it really
of course.
is. It
Yeah.
really is. There's a whole bunch, and everybody's transparent. We're trying to make sure that everybody gets an equal say. And, but at the end of the day, the testing will really come out and validate what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be based on testing on data. It won't be just,
Perfect.
well, I think this is the best. Well,
That's
no,
it. Right.
no, no. This is the best because the testing and the data says
Yes.
it's the best.
Yes. That's exactly what we need. I think everybody's got an opinion, right?
Yeah.
So it's about time we get to the data. Let us know what the data shows, and then we can move forward from that. So
And look, I mean, just adding to that, and probably the last piece is everyone says, well, where's the OEMs and what do they think? And look, for now, I mean, as an industry, all we're focused on is let's get our stuff sorted.
Mm,
Let's make sure that we create the process. Let's make sure that we have some sort of standard. And then we can go to the OEMs and say, hey, look what we've done. And now we have
mm.
something to talk about. Because what's
Yeah,
the point of even getting an OEM involved now? I mean, what
right.
are we going to, we have nothing to show. We have a great idea. We're working towards something. So our whole
Mhm.
mission, and I originally done, I think it was a write up with Fender Bender, and the same
Mhm.
question came up. One of the first questions, where do the OEMs fit in this? And I'm like, hey, once we are ready and we have all the stuff that we need from data to process to results, then the right time is then to connect with OEMs and say, hey, let's have a conversation about we don't want to repair more, we want to repair at least to some standard.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting because we all look to the OEs for the repair procedures, but how often do they roll out repair procedures and they're incomplete, or the shop will repair it that way and yet the issue persists? So then we find out, okay, well, that repair procedure needs to be amended. So I think it's a great idea I think that the natural reaction is to look to the OEs to do all of this for us. And it's not going to happen. So I
No,
think that let's just be realistic. So I'm in complete agreement with you. Figure it out, do your side of it, then you can present it. I'm sure they'll
yeah,
have a vetting process of some kind. That's fine, but there at least we get the ball moving because otherwise we're just going to sit around and be
yeah.
frustrated. What help is that?
And I mean, honestly, it's easier for OEM just to come out with a position statement and say it's not repairable than to think
Right.
about, well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's easier, honestly.
True.
It's easiest to say it's not repairable than just come up with a repair method or a repair process. So I
Right.
think, and look, we've had some, I guess, off the record conversations with OEMs and various representatives. In their view, it's, about time the industry got together and started repairing properly, at least, or to some sort of standard. And
Yeah.
then you know what? I mean, it's in everyone's best interest. I mean, probably just ending on the OEM component. I mean, OEMs are thinking very differently.
Mm,
If you said to an OEM 5 years ago, repair, it was probably a dirty word in their vocab. But now
mm,
look at OEM. I mean, Stellantis overseas in Italy has built one of the biggest reconditioning facilities to repair parts on cars. They've been talking about putting reconditioned parts on new cars. I think Honda just recently announced, there's some post on LinkedIn I've seen, they're actually building some sort of reconditioning facility in Ohio, I think it was.
wow.
And there's various other programs. So there's all this now thought from even OEMs
Mm,
of how do we extend the life cycle of a component. Yes, a lot of the effort at the moment is mechanical parts, but they're
right.
also starting to talk about headlights and tail lights, and soon there'll probably be bumpers that when when they start understanding that there's actually a model there. But OEMs are thinking that way and they're being forced to think about, well, how do I own that part? How do I expand its life cycle instead of just
Mm,
being replaced and going into the ground? And a
right.
lot of them, Europe's changing a lot where OEMs actually own, I guess, the part, even when it's off the car and they're responsible for it. So a
Oh.
lot of shift, yeah, a lot of shift and a lot of stuff happening. But I think I love where OEMs are heading. I mean, OEMs have always been, people think, well, OEMs care about just replacing and making money. Well, I beg to
Mm,
differ because what I'm seeing now, OEMs are starting to have that conversation, are starting to think about sustainability, are starting to think about, well, can we repair more? How do we repair more parts?
mm.
So I think it's a great space to be in.
Yeah, it's really evolving, and that's what's cool to hear that, there's just so much happening, and this is another piece of it. So if nothing else, this is a great chance for people to create an awareness around something that they might not have realized. um, had
Yeah,
so
great.
just like me. I mean, I am the first to admit it. It was kind of like oh my gosh, how could we ignore this? So it's a great awareness piece and something for us to then be looking forward to in the future, to stay tuned for. And Mario, keep me in the loop because I'll push it out to my email list that I've got. We can potentially have you back on when things start pushing out. But I'd like to stay in touch with you because I think this is a great resource for shops and for everybody in the industry, really. I think this is going to better things as a whole to start having more information and more data and more testing data on things because we get it, everybody's got an opinion, the shops have an opinion, the insurance companies sure have an opinion, so if we at least
Yes.
have some data, oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And look, at the end of the day, I mean, our core focus is shops. We want shops to have the right information. We want them to be able to repair more, make more money, make it easier for the technicians. It's what it's all about. I mean, I
Right.
work for a big MSO. I've always come from the body shop segment. I've always had partnerships or work being done with the shops. So our core focus at this stage, everything we're doing is how do we arm the shops with the best knowledge? How do we give them the best access, the best training, the best tools and materials? So that's
Yeah.
our first port of call. Everything else becomes secondary.
Right. Exactly. Anything that you feel like before we wrap it up that we did we touched on a lot of things and people's brains are probably spinning right now. Um it all makes sense. It's all very cohesive. The thought process is cohesive that you guys are kind of carrying the banner for the industry. It's nice to know there are people out there with the knowledge and experience like you have for 35 years. You didn't just roll into it last year and now you're picking up the flag. This is something that you have a lot of experience with and are pushing forward with. So, as somebody in the industry, I'm grateful for folks like you that will stand up. It's a lot of effort, a lot of energy to do something like this, a lot of sacrifice of your own personal time. Anything that you feel like we didn't touch on that you want to mention?
No, I just really want to say thank you to the whole industry. Honestly, I mean the whole industry from shops to to suppliers to the media. I mean, what support we've had. Honestly, everyone's just been so much behind it. Everyone's been carrying any sort of releases that we've had, being so supportive. So it's really, if we could, I can't really honestly, I can't really think of such a drive or such a movement that we've all created. Everyone's behind. It's just been
Mm,
amazing. So yeah, hence being the creator of it just means something small, but this truly is, a team and an industry movement that everyone's gotten behind. So if I could say
yeah.
anything is thank you to everyone,
Mm.
realistically, for the support, for the feedback, for the challenges. Hey,
Mhm.
that's what we want. We want those challenges to say, hey, why this or why not that? I mean, that's what it's all
Right.
about. Yeah, because we don't want to just hear, great things and slaps on back. We
Yes.
want to say, hey, we want to get challenged at times. So that also what the council brings. We've got
Mhm.
a great diverse group of people in there, and look, it's been amazing. So if I had to finish on something, it'd be just to say thank you, and it's going to be really exciting what we deliver for the next few months.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for it. And you're right. Anytime that you're moving forward with something like this, I mean, really in any business venture, is we don't want to live in an echo chamber. How do we get better if we just living in an echo chamber? So I love the fact that you've brought in people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different areas. That's so cool. Um, well, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on. It was so fun, so interesting. I love it. I'm excited to hear what you guys are going to be coming up with next and how this is all going to roll out. Super, super cool. Super
Thank
cool.
you, thank you so much, Mickey. I really
Yeah.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yes. Well, Mario, we'll be seeing you again, I feel like, because we're going to need an update on this. And folks, if you are listening, make sure that you subscribe. If you're on YouTube, you can like this video and it will tell the YouTube world that you liked it. It's good content and it'll share it with other listeners. You can also subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you're just listening to an audio podcast, we're everywhere. So you can follow us on your favorite audio platform and also get notified when we have new episodes drop. But all the information for Plasmic will be below, as well as Mario's information. So you can click there, get some more information. Otherwise, keep staying tuned, keep tuning into Body Bangin and Mickey Woods Marketing. We're going to keep you in the loop of all the latest and greatest and fun and cool and crazy things that are happening in this industry. And we will see you all next time. Bye.